It was just another bright spring morning in rural Nova Scotia when 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack slipped away from the safety of their home, leaving behind only a mystery that has captured the hearts and minds of Canadians from coast to coast. On May 2, 2025, those two small children vanished as quietly as the dew on the grass, and since then, every waking moment of investigators, volunteers, and the Sullivan family has been devoted to bringing them home. Imagine the horror that swept through Lansdowne Station when neither Lily's rosy pink boots nor Jack's beloved blue dinosaur slippers could be found. Imagine the frantic calls to 911, the scent of pine and moss clinging to the air as search teams combed through the woods, and the echo of worried prayers carried on the breeze. From the moment the first officers arrived, it became clear that this would be no ordinary missing persons case. It would be a sprawling, all-hands-on-deck operation that would test the limits of forensic science, law enforcement collaboration, and community solidarity. In the early hours of that fateful day, Lily and Jack's stepfather, Daniel Martel, remembered hearing footsteps and laughter as he and their mother, Malahia Brooks Murray, tended to their infant daughter. They thought nothing of it until the sound fell silent. When they realized their two oldest children were nowhere to be found, panic swallowed them whole. It was then, at just before 10 o'clock in the morning, that the call went out. Two young siblings were missing in a densely wooded area where a single misstep could lead a child miles off course. What followed over the next weeks and months would become one of the most intensive investigations in recent Canadian history. Within hours, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had mobilized a vast search effort. Bloodhounds were paired with expert handlers to trace scents up and down the dirt roads. Helicopters hovered above, their spotlights slicing through the afternoon haze. Drones buzzed overhead, their infrared cameras scanning treetops for any sign of movement. Over 100 volunteers answered the call, joining officers in forging through undergrowth that seemed determined to hide every clue. In a region where thick brush and steep ravines are part of daily life, the terrain can be as unforgiving as it is beautiful, and it quickly became clear that locating two small children in that vast green sea would be like finding two needles in a forest of hay. As the first 5 days of searching drew to a close with no sight of the siblings, the RCMP shifted gears. They still deployed ground searches, but they also turned their focus to forensics and intelligence gathering. Investigators from the Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit began reviewing the 600 public tips that had streamed in overnight, each one promising and yet requiring careful vetting. They consulted the National Centre for Missing Persons and the Canadian Centre for Child Protection to pool expertise, and they brought in specialists from Ontario's forensic labs to examine any physical evidence recovered. Every scrap of material that might hold a clue, from a single shoe print to a broken twig, was meticulously documented, bagged, and sealed for laboratory analysis. Amid all this, a single object quietly rose to prominence, a pink blanket that belonged to Lily. Found early in the investigation near the family's driveway, the blanket sat in evidence lockers until mid-July, when RCMP spokesperson Corporal Carly McCann announced that forensic teams were finally able to begin detailed examinations of its fibers, any latent fingerprints, and the tiniest traces of DNA. The blanket, plain to the casual observer, holds the potential to answer the most pressing question: was it dropped by Lily as she wandered into the woods by herself, or was it carried away by someone else? Each possibility carries its own weight of heartache and hope, and every test performed on that soft fabric brings investigators one step closer to unraveling what truly happened that morning. As forensic scientists in Ottawa wiped their instruments late into the night, video analysts at RCMP detachments across Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Ontario dove into a digital sea of surveillance footage. They pawed over more than 5,000 video files, gathered from doorbell cameras, traffic cams, and dash-mounted recorders owned by private citizens who lived or drove through Lansdowne Station. Each clip was examined frame by frame, looking for any hint of the children's tiny forms or vehicles that maybe hadn't belonged there before. Was there a car parked on a side road that morning? Did someone unfamiliar pass by the property? Even the most fleeting pixel could light up an investigative path, so nothing was dismissed as irrelevant. Meanwhile, in quiet interview rooms, detectives sat across from more than 60 individuals connected to the case: family members, neighbors, delivery drivers, and anyone who might have been within earshot of Lilly and Jack. Among those questioned was Daniel Martel himself, who took a voluntary polygraph test to clear any lingering doubts about his involvement. Polygraphs are not foolproof, but when used alongside other investigative tools, they can help narrow the field of inquiry. Each interview peeled back another layer of the story, revealing not only hard facts but also the emotional toll that uncertainty was exacting on everyone involved. Through it all, the Sullivan family leaned on the community and on each other. Candlelight vigils were held under star-filled skies, where residents stood shoulder to shoulder, clutching family photographs and whispering prayers into the night. Flyers plastered on telephone poles fluttered in the wind, each one displaying Lily's gentle smile and Jack's mischievous grin, begging anyone with information to come forward. A GoFundMe page raised thousands of dollars to cover volunteer fuel costs and equipment rentals, while local churches and community centers transformed into coordination hubs for search efforts and donation drives. Even high school students signed up in droves, willing to give up weekends and evenings to comb the countryside in search of their youngest neighbors. Despite the solidarity, frustration sometimes surfaced as people wondered why no concrete leads had yet materialized. In a tight-knit region where everybody knows everybody, the lack of definitive answers gnawed at the collective psyche. Residents wanted more frequent press briefings, more transparent updates, and assurances that the resources being poured into the case were being used to their fullest potential. In response, the RCMP held live-stream town hall meetings, offering as much information as they could without jeopardizing active lines of inquiry. Detectives answered questions about search methodologies, forensic timelines, and how tips were being vetted. Efforts aimed not only at sustaining public interest but also at encouraging fresh recollections and the submission of any previously withheld details. At the same time, media coverage amplified the family's pleas across Canada and beyond. National news networks featured interviews with Lilly and Jack's mother, whose voice cracked with emotion as she recounted her children's favorite songs and bedtime stories. International outlets picked up the narrative, painting a picture of the vast Canadian wilderness as a place of both breathtaking beauty and hidden dangers. Social media influencers in Nova Scotia and across the Atlantic urged followers to share the sibling story, creating a hashtag, #FindLillyandJack, that trended on platforms where millions could see it. But with every mention came the risk of rumor and misinformation, so officials cautioned the public to rely only on verified updates from the RCMP and credible news sources. By mid-June, the provincial government added the case to its major unsolved crimes program, offering a reward of up to $150,000 for information that could lead to the safe return of the children. That sum, while significant, underscored the grim reality that financial incentives alone cannot replace the nuance of genuine eyewitness accounts. Investigators reminded everyone that even the smallest observation, a car's license plate fragment, a passerby's recollection of two small figures near a rural road, could prove more valuable than any cash reward. Crime Stoppers provided a secure, anonymous portal for tips, reinforcing the message that no detail was too trivial to share. In offices from Halifax to Ottawa, specialists in behavioral science and criminal analysis examined comparable cases in Canada and abroad, looking for patterns that might shed light on Lilly and Jack's disappearance. They reviewed studies on child wandering incidents, wildlife encounters, and stranger abductions. Each theoretical model generated new questions. Did weather conditions that morning affect the siblings' movements? Could local wildlife have come across two small children? And if so, would there be any telltale signs? Was it possible that someone, perhaps with innocent intentions to help, had approached the children, only to become inadvertently entangled in a growing tragedy? These theories, while unsettling, ensured that no stone was left unturned. Throughout the ordeal, both family and investigators leaned heavily on mental health resources. The emotional strain of not knowing where Lilly and Jack were, or if they were safe, took a serious toll. Counselors worked with the Sullivan family to provide grief support, while RCMP personnel accessed critical incident stress debriefings to manage vicarious trauma among officers and volunteers. The magnitude of this case meant that sustaining emotional resilience was as vital as any piece of evidence. Community members who found themselves overcome by anxiety or despair at the prospect of unanswered questions were directed to local support groups, where they could share their fears and find strength in numbers. As summer days lengthened and temperatures rose, the investigation didn't slow. Forensic teams conducted exhaustive examinations of the pink blanket and other materials recovered in the earliest searches. Advanced DNA sequencing methods scoured for even the faintest genetic fingerprints. Dr. Elaine Tremblay, a forensic analyst involved in the case, described the process as painstaking but essential, because even a single hair or fiber could turn the tide. Meanwhile, forensic accountants and digital experts followed financial and communications trails, ensuring no stone in the digital realm was left unturned. One promising line of inquiry involved reanalyzing audio clips recorded on a volunteer's trail camera that had captured faint voices in the woods on the morning of May 2nd. Acoustic specialists worked to enhance the recordings, hoping to distinguish the siblings' voices from ambient forest sounds. Though initial tests yielded nothing definitive, the technology continues to evolve, and each new software update offers fresh hope that those whispers in the woods might one day reveal more than suspense. They could provide answers. Back in Lansdowne Station, neighbors have started summer routines tinged with caution. Parents now double-check that doors are securely latched, and drivers slow down on country roads, scanning every bend for small figures. The disappearance of Lilly and Jack served as a jarring reminder that even the most idyllic settings can harbor unexpected dangers, and that vigilance must be part of daily life. Yet, despite the shadow cast by their absence, the community remains determined to hold on to hope. Yard signs bearing the children's photos now stand as metamorphic monuments, silent prayers in the shape of corrugated plastic, urging every passerby to remember that two little souls are still out there, waiting to come home. Looking ahead, investigators plan to host a multi-agency symposium in Halifax this fall, bringing together experts from across Canada to share breakthroughs in child loss and child abduction cases. They will present the Sullivan case as a central study, seeking insights that might illuminate unexplored paths. At the same time, community groups will hold anniversary events on May 2nd, 2026, not only to mark a year since the disappearance but to renew collective resolve. The memory of Lily's laughter and Jack's boundless curiosity will be honored through family-friendly walks and charity drives that contribute to search and rescue training across Nova Scotia's rural regions. Through every twist and turn, the promise remains the same. The RCMP will not rest until they uncover the truth. Corporal McCann echoed that commitment in mid-July when she reminded the public that our efforts are unwavering, our methods are evolving, and our hope is unbroken. The Sullivan family, for their part, holds on to the belief that every piece of evidence, no matter how small, brings them one step closer to holding Lilly and Jack again. For anyone who might hold a missing puzzle piece, a scrap of recollected memory, a blurred image on a video, or a fragment of fabric found on a morning stroll, your voice could be the one to bring this story to its long-awaited resolution. The Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit can be reached at 9028965060, and anonymous tips may be submitted through Crime Stoppers. Every call, every click, and every share keeps Lilly and Jack's faces in the light. If you followed this unfolding story, please do one more thing. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Share this article with friends and family. The more eyes and ears we have, the better our chances of bringing two small children home where they belong. We may be many miles and forests apart, but together, in hearts, in hope, and in action, we stand united in the search for Lilly and Jack.